Hello, hola, welcome to Oye Cinema Club. Pew, 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 pew. My name is Don Dino Spezzini, and I will be wrangling the show. I picked the movie The Fisher King. It's 1991. It's directed by Terry Gilliam, written by Richard Lagravanesi. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's got Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams. Can't wait to talk about it. I've never seen the movie. It's always been on my radar. So let's just go into it. But what? Not by myself. I gotta have my pals with me. We have Steve Adez, we have Marina, and Jason Eccles. So to get started, let's go with Jason, because I believe you've seen it. So let's hear someone with a previous viewing of this
I have
movie.
not actually seen this movie before.
Oh,
This is my first time watching it. I gotta say, this is one of those 1991 movies that feels like it's all over the place. I don't exactly 100% like as I was watching the movie, I didn't know what the movie was trying to say. Like what exactly are we focusing on? Like how zany is this for real? But I do like the messages in the movie, and I think by the end of it, it sort of brings it all home. But living in that world made me a little uncomfortable, but I guess maybe that's what the filmmaker was trying to do, perhaps, to make us a little uncomfortable while we watched it. A lot of the angles are kind of like tilted,
yeah.
um, and things are kind of zany, and the camera is moving upside down, and there's weird bubble views sometimes. So he's trying to put us in a different space, but it definitely worked with me. I definitely felt uncomfortable throughout most of this movie. It's very nostalgic. I haven't seen a movie from like the '90s in a while, and just it's always nice to see people at video stores and using tapes and all that kind of cool stuff. And like, I don't even have a VCR. I'm like, wait, when was this? I didn't even look up what year the movie came out until she said, I don't have a VCR. I'm like, wait, what year is this? And it's 91. I'm sure there's lots of people without VCRs in 91. Um, but I do like it. It's it's one of like Robin Williams' hidden movies. I feel like I don't. No one's ever really talked about this movie. I can kind of see why. And maybe it's even a little bit ahead of its time in what it's trying to say as well. But I did like it. um, Jeff Bridges very good in this thing. As always. Everybody's really quite good in this movie. To be honest with you, I like all the characters. But it does sometimes feel like every character at certain times are in a totally different movie, or they're in their own movie. It's weird. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, but that was my first impression watching the film.
Okay. I don't know why. I just thought you had seen it from last time we spoke. All right. Marina, what about you? First impression, first view?
Yeah, it was my first time watching it. As far as first impressions go, when I realized it was came out in '91, which is the year I was born, I was like, "Wow, this movie's 21 years old. I can't believe it." Um, um, I was very intrigued almost immediately. I am a huge Robin Williams fan, so it's like Jason said, like, what the? Why have I never heard of this? And of course, I'm a sap, so I was just like, he's not alive anymore. So this is really sad. So I was probably like really emotional the whole time watching it just because it was so cool to see some content of his that I hadn't seen yet. Um, so I probably was like, I was in tunnel vision. I don't even remember the camera doing weird stuff. Like I was just like so wanting to see everything he did or said. I was completely captivated with just like I think especially because there's a lot of homelessness here in Los Angeles, like, just kind of realizing that homeless people are people. I feel like they're written off so much for, like, "Oh, they must be on drugs," but there's so many stories of, like, mental health that don't get enough. So I think I was just really biased to this movie just because it really shines some light on how these people, even crazy, like they didn't even play it off. You're like, oh, maybe he's just a cool guy in the streets. No, he had mental illness and he was seeing stuff, and but he's still someone to get to know and to root for. So I really, really enjoyed it for multiple reasons, and I just loved how it kept unfolding. Um, yeah, I almost the only thing I would say is I don't know if I really connected to Jeff, and his struggles and things that were going on with him. I really liked his girlfriend, but Robin Williams to me really stole the show, and I just was rooting for him, for his past, for his future, for his present, and I just really wanted him to be okay and win, and not be homeless anymore. But that's it. That's my first impression.
Nice. And you, Mr. Diaz, Steve?
First impression. I'm actually more leaning towards like I'm like 75% Jason and 25% Marie. So like
But you haven't heard me say my first impression yet.
yes, I don't care. I don't care, Dino. And the worst is always for last. Uh anyway, the I yeah, I like the movie in general. Like I feel like Jason. Like I was like very confused. Uh, it's it's of course 91, so like I think in the 90s movies got a little, especially early 90s movie got a little experimental. But like I felt like that. I felt like a little lost. Like why am I supposed to like root for like it wasn't like clear to me in that point. But the other 25% of Marina was like the moment Robin Williams literally came on screen when he's saving him, like I thought that's when the movie like lit up. Because I felt like at first I was just like, all right, this Howard Stern type character and stuff. Okay, cool. But like, what else? Like where is this going? Like, what's the point of this? And then when like the Robin Williams showed up with his army of Skid Row, lieutenants, he lit up the whole movie, in my opinion. And yeah, I'm wondering like if anybody has the information about the budget of this film, will be very interesting. Um, because yeah, especially the hallucinations were a little like again to me were like it was cool to see the fire, but I don't know, like the shape of everything was like I don't know. I was like a little not so impressed about it. But I guess also I'm seeing this from perspective of someone that's living in 2023. So I, you know, we've seen already very impressive things at this point. I imagine back in that day, people were like, "Wow, the fire devil thing." Uh, but yeah, to me, I wasn't like super stoked about the movie in general. But one thing for sure is that I'm not a huge fan of like Robert Williams comedy, but I'm a huge fan of his acting. And I thought he killed it. I think he did an amazing job. He does a great job in everything he did acting wise. First impression.
Nice. Um,
Terrific.
maybe you guys weren't paying attention. I, I didn't. I guess I had forgotten also. So I kind of went in. I knew it was Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams. I forgot it was Terry Gilliam directed. And even when it first started, and I was like, okay, this is Terry Gilliam, and then immediately I was like, is this part of the Brazil verse? Like it had the same. We watched Brazil. I forget who picked Brazil, but we watched Brazil here, and it's this kind of postmodern, futuristic society. And I felt like this fits in that world as well. Clearly, before shit just goes off the rails. But that's kind of how I saw it because it was another kind of putting the magnifying lens on society and kind of that culture and like there were so many lines that kind of like at the end he was like I'm glad no one in this town looks up as a reference like they're always constantly looking down at people, right, and not seeing lesser people, if you will, if that's kind of the thing. So I was just enthralled because yeah, the cinematography, the angles, the camera, Dutch, everything, fish lens, all that was similar to also in Brazil that came out in '85. Uh, and so that's also what kind of made me think about it because there was this mix of actual location filming and then clearly some sets and stuff like that that made it have a little bit more tie in the real world. And and also in the video store, uh they had a poster on the in the window of Baron, whatever the first movie Terry Gilliam did. But then in the office, there's a giant poster of Brazil. So I was taking so many notes. I was loving it. I was just like, oh, I gotta take this note. And I was like, is this part of Brazilverse? And as soon as I say that, he's sitting in front of the Brazil poster. Um, so yeah, all that analog look, just going on in the background and like just spinning the display case and the cassette tape. I mean, I agree. I don't know where to go, guys. I have so many things to talk about and so little time. Um, but I agree with Jason that this came kind of early, like before its time. Because it's again, this is that 100 years of solitude. This is like everything repeats itself. There's all this cycle. Like I knew it was about like the homeless guy and this guy that's clearly of a different level. I didn't know the whole thing of like the shock jock mentality and I guess giving someone the motivation to just go postal back then. And nowadays, it's like, oh man, he could easily be a Joe Rogan type, or someone with a podcast, or someone with a YouTube channel, or a influencer. And you never know who's listening to you. And I thought this, in thinking of like, yeah, what is this movie about? Who is this movie? What I did like of Jeff Bridges was that he actually was struggling with that. Now, not always in the right way, right? Because he even talks about, um, isn't there someone I can just pay for this to go away? Right? He kept trying to do that. Can I just pay a fine and I can forget this? Like, and but no, he's actually dealing or not dealing correctly with his trauma. And lastly, before we kind of get into other things in it, I'm so glad they kind of ended up going more fairy tale with it and finishing with a happy ending. Spoiler alert, but because I don't know what I would have I would have been a mess. I feel like I don't know if I would have been able to handle that coming in, just knowing that like it didn't end well, especially for like Robin Williams' character and all that. I was just like, oh no, like this is, especially the way Brazil ends. Brazil ends, I think, on a darker note. This seemed like it was going Brazil, and then I was like, and we'll give it a little shimmer of hope. And yeah, so that's kind of my first impressions of it. So I want to bring up. If you guys felt any of that, I guess, of the kind of with Jason talking about it, being ahead of its time, and how it can maybe relate with today's society and the time we're living in. And the last thing I would add, if it did come out more recently, I think more they would have been more nominations for this film, and they could have probably won more. Just because I feel like our psyche and the zeitgeist, I'm using so many big words, guys, of society and the films that tend to get big and get the nomination and even winning are not your typical like Oscar baity. Like you'll still have that, but you have stuff like Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? That is weird and is it comedy? Is it drama? Is it action? You have something like Barbie that can tie all these different themes and not just be one thing. It can fit so many people. You have something like Parasite. So you have all these movies in recent times that has gone and like won all these awards and won the acting and stuff like that, because it's everything is, I think, now there's so many more layers, or as a viewing group we're in this weird thing where it's like you can add layers, even though that's really weird because everyone's so bitchy lately and can't do nuance and kind of like Marina and I were talking a little bit before we started, but don't worry, Steve, we weren't talking about the movie, we were talking about society. Anyway, I'll open it up. If anything that I just said kind of resonates with anyone and wants to jump on that, be my guest.
So I have a confession. I didn't finish this movie. I got to the part where like Robin Williams almost gets beat to death
Okay, that's not
by
good.
the people, and then he's in the hospital, and they come to visit him, and then they break up. I think that's where I left off. So I know I'm like pretty close to the end, but it seems way sadder than maybe it probably is, because right now it seems like his character's about to die in the hospital. And that's it's really hurtful. It's really put me in a hurtful space right before I came on to talk to you guys. So hopefully that's
Okay.
not the case. But if it is, does he die? Like, you guys can tell me.
Well,
He
no,
doesn't.
that's what I mean. That's what I was saying. That he, that I'm glad they went with a fairy tale. Jeff Bridges ends up scaling the tower, the castle, and steals the Grail. And at the same time, the person he steals it from is this old man that had taken a bunch of pills to commit suicide. So Jeff Bridges decides to trip the alarm as he's leaving. So like first responders end up showing up and they save the old man that was trying to commit suicide, and then he leaves the Grail with Robin Williams, and he wakes up, and yeah, and him and his girl get together, and then Jeff Bridges goes back and tells her he loves her, and she slaps the shit out of him, and then they kiss. So happy ending.
That's a 90s love thing. um so yeah, ahead of its time. I mean, obviously we couldn't have a movie about VHSs now. No, I'm just kidding. So cancel culture element I think would fit in. It would probably resonate just with like things that have happened in the media and things like that. And then thankfully, like radio personalities haven't died. Yeah, it's switched more over to podcasts and things, but we have seen it all the time. People say something on that podcast and they get some Blackboard. Next thing you know, the podcast is gone and things like that. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. Again, I feel like I'm completely biased because it was like content of Robin Williams that I've never seen before. So I think I was just so excited. It's like going to a concert to see somebody that said that they were no longer having concerts anymore. So I just felt like I was so captivated just to see something new of him. But as far as like, I'm not sure if it did well or not. But as far as why it didn't do well, I honestly can't put my finger on it. And I know I sound silly because you guys put your finger on it. Each of you did. I just don't see it that way. I think it was so great. Like even the craziness. I think the craziness was mental health. Like
Yeah.
where we're at when we're drunk and where we're at when we're seeing things. And I just think it was just very lucid. Kind of like Queen for a Dream kind of like stuff. I really liked it. Does anybody know how well it did in like the box office?
Yeah,
$5?
I
so
did well.
the budget was 24 million, which seems like quite a bit in 1991, and it grossed 74 or 76 million.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
okay.
crazy.
You
I
got
never
more than what I.
Way more than what I thought.
Yeah. I don't know where you got
72
the
million.
70. Huh?
72 million.
Oh, okay. On IMDb, it's saying 41 was the gross, 42 basically. But
42
Um,
what?
42 million was gross worldwide, but maybe you have an updated number. I think it did well. I remember hearing this movie a lot. It just wasn't on much. It's also very hard to find. It's part of the Criterion collection, but they only have it as a physical format. Like they just came out with a 4K Blu-ray. Because they even do that YouTube Criterion Closet thing, and like two or three times in a row of the videos, people are taking out the um, Fisher King movie to talk about it in the little Criterion Closet. So that's cool that that's in there. Um, but yeah, I think it did well, and it's well acclaimed. It just again, it's there are not a lot of films that tackle mental health the way that this movie does, right? Like, because again, I think through most of Robin Williams' career, I mean, he would do these dramas, but it would have to be like a dark comedy drama. And kind of the thing with a lot of comedians, never quite got that respect, if you will, of like can just do full on drama type of thing, right? But then I guess you have like a Jeff Bridges that's been able to kind of tiptoe back and forth between it, you know.
I'm curious, what were there very many Oscar nominations or any award nominations for this thing? Did anybody have any info on that?
Mm.
I'm looking, but I haven't seen it pop up. At least my quick look, but
I mean, I don't know. I
possible.
don't really remember. I was a mere.
Seems like Mercedes Ruel was nominated for quite a few things, which so the one oh the girlfriend, huh? Yeah, she got nominated for Academy Award for Best Actress just Best Supporting Actress, Golden Globe for Best Supporting.
Nice.
Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges Golden Globe nominations for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. So, I mean, I'm just gonna blame it on the fact that I was born this year, so that's probably why I'd never heard of it. So, like I never, yeah, it was pretty. It felt very nostalgic. Also, it was very deep because like he saves him when he was about to kill himself too, and just like how life goes on and things change and everything. I'm curious, is this the movie where Robin Williams met his stand-in? That he had like a homeless stand-in, right?
Yeah,
I
he did that. Not
This may be it. I also thought the same thing when I was watching it. And then like he put something in his contract that every film he worked in whatever town, he had to have at least 5 unhoused people working on the set.
yeah, that's a thing there for sure. I think it might have been even before this one because I
okay.
think that gets connected with his dad and like his dad used to work for like the different one of the big three car companies, I think. And so it was during like layoffs and all that, and I think they had to move a lot. Maybe I'm making this all up, but I feel like he just had a connection early on of layoffs and not having work and all that that he kind of had extra connection. But I could be full of it. But yeah, I guess Mercedes Rule did win for, but that was the only win in the Oscars for the supporting actress. Um, but yeah, other than that, it didn't have. They had some nominations, um, but I think I would have gotten more like um, original screenplay. Like it didn't even get nominated for that. Like or cinematography, or even the sound was pretty superb. Costumes, man, those outfits. Whew, they like some baggy clothes in the early '90s.
Mhm.
Um, And I don't know what the deal was that you didn't like the night, but that night and the fire, it's again very much like Brazil, right? They would have these like what was real, what wasn't, you know, and like the central. Okay, so let's talk about some favorite or scene pieces or actions that you guys enjoyed. The one that really stood out for me is the train station, whatever it's called. They actually, I looked it up afterwards, and that was actual at the central, whatever central station, and they actually closed at 8 p.m. Well, at 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. before the first commuter train showed up was closed, and they were filming throughout that night the whole tango scene and all that. So they had lighting so that it would appear to be 5 p.m. like when everyone was going home, and they filmed that tango scene and everything. And I just thought that was amazing. And that went throughout the whole movie of where people's minds and psyche just kind of start drifting, and you almost start daydreaming and maybe thinking like, oh, if this happens, and what is it? And it's just like this dance of trying, different movies have done it in different ways. Like Charlie Chaplin in modern times just shows sheep just going everywhere, right? But I guess Terry Gilliam, they were gonna do a different scene at the station there, and it was just gonna be Jeff Bridges and one other person. And then when they were kind of scouting it out, he like saw the how big it was, and he was like, "Oh, what if this is just becomes into this just full on who falls in love with who matches who is trying to avoid who." And it just becomes this like kind of dancing among, and it's like again, like they filmed that in location and decided to close and have classical music and playing there, and they I think had live musicians, and apparently after that they now I think do New Year's at midnight there and stuff like that, or some weird stuff like that. They'll have live music after the station closes for the day. So I don't know. That for me was one of the really chef kiss moment of the film. Does anyone have one that pops up in their mind? You control the thing. You don't have to raise your hand. You can literally kick us all out and just talk for with yourself.
Okay, I'll kick you all out then. I'll do that. So a chef kiss moment to me, which could enter as one of my favorite characters as well. But it was one of my favorite moments in the entire movie. It's early in the movie. It's when we see Jeff Bridges' character going on his slump, and we see a very young, what I think, Bruce Wayne as a kid, and goes to Jeff Bridges, and goes like, "Hey, Mister Bum, here for you." That sent me over. I was like, he called him Mister Bum. I was like, if I'm on the street, like, I understand, like, someone calling you sir, and you think you're still very young, but like, so someone call you Mister Bum, like on the street.
Mr. Bum.
Yeah.
You're old and you're homeless looking. So here you go. Here's this nutcracker or whatever that was. Like, what was the use of it? Like, it was, I mean, obviously that toy was throughout the movie and given in love later on and things like that. But like, he could have given him anything. That was such a weird thing to give someone if you really think they do not have a home to live in. Like, that was such a random gift. It was almost like a joke on how people, when they think they're helping you out, like, it doesn't make any darn sense. But yeah, that was a very random one. Kind of go into mine. I really like when he was breaking in. Sorry, Jason, you didn't see this, and getting and getting the Holy Grail. I thought it was just pretty funny. Like, all of a sudden, like, we have this mission happening. I honestly didn't understand that. Maybe you guys can give me some insight. But like, what was the whole point of this cup and why it was so important to him and why he knew about the glass painting? And that's like, yeah, I was just really confused there.
Well, the glass painting, he when he first stays in the boiler room when he gets saved by Robin Williams, then Robin Williams is talking about how Jeff Bridges is the one, and he's here to help him get the Holy Grail. And he shows him whatever magazine it is. It's like Home and Garden or something, GQ, something where there's a picture of that rich dude, and in the bookshelf is that cup, and he just thinks that's the Holy Grail. And then he has some books and some other material that talk about the Holy Grail. So clearly, it's just something that when I guess Robin Williams is out of it, it's the only thing that matters to him is trying to achieve this goal of getting the Holy Grail. Now, at the very end, I think Jeff Bridges, that's why he ends up going because and what I really liked in that moment is before he goes, he even tells Robin Williams, who's in the coma, he's like, "I'm fine. I'm gonna go. I might die getting this grail for you, but I'm not doing it so that." The way he said it was great because he said, "I'm not doing it to get you off my back or just because I want to find a way to release this angst or whatever that I have. I'm doing it because I want to I want to do this for you." Which I think goes back to the Fisher King story of like, are you doing it just because you want the power or just because you want something, or are you just doing it to help someone else, right? And be nice. So, and I think the cherry on top of that is when he gets to the Grail and he looks at it, it's some cheesy ass award, right? I forget what it says, but he looks at the plaque and it's some whatever, like either retirement party or like most likely to succeed. That was some just whatever little award that the guy had it. But that's it had that symbolism, I guess, of just being something that he was like last ditch effort of getting Robin Williams to wake up from the coma. If he had the Holy Grail, like, does it have mystical powers? If he achieves one good thing, can he wake back up? And if you brought that up, the castle, did it seem to anyone? Sorry, Jason, that it looked like one of those like drawings or paintings where it's like the staircases that seems like you don't know where they start and where they begin, or if they're going up or down. Because I was gonna research what that was called again. Um, Old school drawings where it's like almost a infinite kind of stairs hallway. No, anyone? All right, I lost again.
There's this TV show, and I didn't know if it was if why it was called this but I just looked it up. There's a TV show called Silos on Apple TV,
Yeah.
and it's built with that staircase. And I just googled Silos stairs just for fun, and it looks like that's it, like the wraparound ones, like. Yeah, but I don't know if that's what you mean, but
Oh, there you go. MC Escher. It's like a MC Escher drawing. It's called Relativity. And I think that happens in lots of a little bit also in Brazil, where you get lost in it. You don't know if you're going up or down or where something begins or not. So
no, I
yeah,
didn't know.
that's one of.
So the glass in the tower looking exactly like the guy that like is in Robin Williams' head. Is that just a coincidence or
Oh, okay. So you mean, got it. Okay, you mean the stained glass. Uh, the only thing I can think of is that maybe Robin Williams made it up to there, and then that's where he kind of got freaked out. But
he says I
also, yeah, Jeff Bridges then is like, "Oh, now I'm starting to hear horses. Oh, now I'm the one going crazy, right?" I thought that was also a fun way of like, this is wild, this is getting cookie, this is now gone full fairy tale moment because he's also like, are you truly crazy if you're acknowledging that you're going crazy, right? That's part of the catch 22 also, right? If you know that you're crazy or you know that you're going crazy, then you can't truly be crazy. So that's
Maybe.
that's a little tidbit for all the crazies out there.
What are you trying to say, Steve? I'm crazy.
Damn, Steve, you're gonna
What are you
get canceled.
blaming me for?
He said that's what all the crazies mean, and then there's like a zoom in on me.
Did you have any pieces, Jason, that stood out? I think we.
There was a really sweet scene in the film where you know he's walking her home and she gets beside herself, and then he, says all those things that comfort her. But he really is saying like this super creepy thing, and it's like the way this movie's going. I don't know what like it was like a boxing match because like I don't know who's gonna like I just didn't know where it was gonna go next with that whole scene, and it was very sweet and it was very like romantic and charming and cuckoo, you know, and then when he finally wins the day and everything's great and he's on cloud nine, he gets hit with this wave of, his illness. And, it just takes him back down to ground zero again, man. It was, it was constructed in such a way, the scene where it's like it takes you on this emotional roller coaster all throughout. And then there's a climax of the scene and a false climax just to that scene. And then you get all the way to the top and then it just pulls you right back down.
Yeah.
That part of the movie might actually be considered the false crescendo, if you will. But yeah, I just thought that turn was really, really nice, and it was probably my favorite part of the movie.
And I'm glad that it did go also fairy tale because there's some real moral issues. Like if Jeff Bridges and his girl are helping this clearly, you could say schizophrenic or just even homeless guy, um, try and get a date or get laid, which is what she was, I guess, getting ready for. And it's like, well, and he's kind of like,
Wait,
I see
so
you every
let's
day.
real quick. Let's make a tangent. So, does she like she has to like ask him for a condom? Like she can't be like just like taking just homeless.
She didn't know though. That's what
She
Dino's
didn't
saying.
know.
The morality, like looking back, it's like, but I think what they did is they picked the perfect character because she wasn't normal either. So
Yeah,
it's like you didn't. I still felt bad. Like, and I'm glad, even though you said it's like a false crescendo scene, I feel like I'm glad they did bring it down because, like, what if he would have freaked
yeah,
out like that upstairs? Like,
yeah,
like, so it was like, yeah, but it was very strange when you think about it. Like, that one, she didn't put two and two together that he was a little off, and
yeah,
then she was like, and then even when he was just like being strange, like I've been watching you for 5 million years, and you go out the door
yeah,
at 12 o'clock. She was like, "You're real," and so I mean, like, yeah, like the other girlfriend said, like they're perfectly made for each other in a weird way. But yeah, like someone who literally is maybe was it like dealing with some type of schizophrenia due to trauma, like yeah, like I definitely think a woman should know about that. And it was a little
right.
shady that I didn't tell her. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really glad that he was like, nah, I don't want to go up, and just like, I want the whole thing. I want to see you and see you again, and then even, but I'm still not gonna have coffee.
And also, does coffee trigger the PTSD, or just he doesn't like coffee?
Maybe it would have stopped it because he didn't have coffee and got triggered. So he saw the division, the glass, and
I
that
I want to talk really quickly about the actual PTS induced scenes. The
I'd rather
inducement.
not. But I guess we must go on.
You cannot talk about this movie and not broach what we saw, and it was pretty wild. And as I was watching it, I'm like, I just don't know how this is in a film, and to me, like this never got back to me, or like I was warned, or I'm not saying it was trigger warning, but it is a little bit like I don't know. I think This is one of the first times in my life I watched movies. Like I would have liked to have known I was going to be witnessing this because it comes out of nowhere. I don't know if
Yeah.
this is a sweet, quirky movie. It's got like some Amelie in it. It's got some Brazil in it. It's got all types of like quirky, and the movie is going in and out. And then they show you like for real a horror scene, like not even like a
Yeah.
horror movie, but like an actual horror scene. And it's like, wow, man. And I guess it's even maybe more triggering now because of what our world has turned into since 1991. With all the school shootings and public shootings and mass murders and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. You see it in a movie, and I don't know if it was just me just being triggered because of it. I don't. I mean, I don't know if it would have had that same effect in '91. I don't know how people felt about this thing, but I didn't. I didn't like that. I'm not gonna lie.
The
Yeah,
shooting.
I agree. It's real quick. Maybe Jason, you should have looked it up on Does a Dog Die? You know.
Well, I should have.
That
I
was it,
wasn't
Marina.
thinking.
You can. Yeah,
The
Marina, you
technology
can
is
go.
too new to me. I just discovered does a dog die last week, so I have to. I have to.
You
I
you
had a
gotta
beer.
you gotta search
I'm not gonna
does
look at that.
someone's brains get blown onto the other person's face?
I had
Like,
a
is
beer
that
break.
gonna?
Oh, I had a beer break while you were talking about your trigger. Are you talking about when she actually gets shot? Like
Yes.
you weren't ready for that? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like I knew, obviously, but whoa, like I was because I was wondering, like, why is he seeing this horse and fire? I'm like, what does this have to do with it? Like, was the killer wearing a red jacket when he came in? Like, I was just like, really, I was like, oh, it's like her face splattered open. That's
Oh,
what
I
it
didn't
looks.
even see it like that.
Because I was just like, oh shoot, like the way that was the best editing of the movie was the way that transition, like he's looking in the vision and then like and that's like the last thing he saw before she died and it haunts him to this day. And so I was just like, ooh, but yeah, I wasn't ready for it. I was just like, wow, yeah, it was a massive scenario. I never thought they were gonna flash back to the actual day of it
That's a
all.
great observation. I didn't see that the first time. I mean, just looking at it or whatever. Yeah, it's a fantastic observation, and I think it sounds very accurate. I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna take a relook at that. Unfortunately, I
Go
didn't take a
trigger
relook at that to see, but yeah, I think that sounds right, and it does put a different sort of twist on the movie because at that point the movie does feel more like about a conversation about mental health and like you said, being haunted by some trauma, and what is that like to be haunted by some trauma? Uh, yeah, and so yeah, that the fact that this movie's sort of exploring that in this way, yeah, it's pretty pretty daunting subject matter if you think about it.
I feel like
Yeah,
this
this is.
made you so
Hmm?
sad. I feel like this movie made you so sad. It made me so happy to just see another Robin Williams film. I'm just like, I was
No,
like,
that's super dope. Yes, absolutely.
But if it wouldn't have ended how it ended, Marina, would you have still felt the same way as now?
I mean, yeah, I would have cried though because I paused it. It was funny that you brought that up. That like in this moment where he runs off and he gets stabbed, which was weird. I'm not usually into like super theatrical moments like that. Like I'm just like, yeah, this is a little dramatic. Like he was getting stabbed and looking off into the distance. I just felt like it was almost time for an intermission at a play or something. I was just like, really
Mm.
like, what's happening? But I paused it and I remember because like John was watching it with me, then he had to like unpack from our trip or whatever. And I came in, I was like, I think they killed him. I wasn't ready for him to die. I had a moment, I had to regroup. I was like, I'm gonna watch it, but then so yeah, it was cool that he didn't die. But I would have still appreciated it. I just probably would have cried. I teared up a little bit when I thought he was dead. So if he really would have died and they would have had a whole funeral scene and just like but
The only thing, right, that would have maybe made it a little less horrible of the dying is that right as he's after he gets like sliced and they start right before they start beating him, he says thank you, looking at like almost like a release, right?
mm,
And I don't know if that was that's what led them to the coma. It was a release of that kind of, because when he first wakes up and Jeff Bridges is passed out on him, and then he, is it okay if, it was something like, is it okay if I miss her, type of thing, like kind of just coming to the realization of the horror of how he lost his wife, or just losing his wife, and just maybe a little bit of an acceptance of like, can I just miss her, right? Can I not be haunted? Is it okay to just try and move on and be happy? At least that's how I took it. But um, yeah, there was a lot. Well, I think we can get into final thoughts, and I'll go first because I there's so much I want to just throw up, throw up. I want to throw up a lot of my what I'm thinking of as my final thoughts. Unless anyone wants to jump in real quick and say something.
I'll go ahead. Final thought. I have more clarity and perspective on this movie, talking to you guys. But I still am not extremely convinced that I will watch this movie again. Uh, I enjoyed both Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams' performances. I thought the women had a very good role here in the movie. I enjoyed that she slapped the heck out of him at the end. I was like, yes, they. I'm glad they gave her that choice there. And yeah, and I honestly, it will be very very hard for me to recommend it to someone. Uh, Maybe people that miss Robin Williams, like Marina, so they
Yeah.
get a little jolt. That's my final
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'll slide in real quick because I have some that are gonna add to that. I do agree. This is a film I want to watch again, but I don't know if I can. I don't know when, but that's why I enjoy our talks, because like Marina can bring stuff up, and I or anyone will bring something up, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't think about it this way. But I feel there's one, like, the more times you watch, those little things you're gonna notice that you didn't notice before. But even though I love Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges and all that, it's hard for me to just be like, I'm gonna sit down and watch this. But it's a movie I'm gonna start recommending today, right now. Watch it. Um, it's great because also we didn't even talk about Tom Waits. Tom Waits was a bum in the wheelchair in the train station, right? Also, great line. This is just boom, boom, boom. Gonna shoot them off that I wrote down. I think it was Jeff Bridges says suicidal paranoiacs will say anything to get laid. I just think it's a great line. You brought up Jeff Bridges, Jack's girlfriend, who I think we can all agree is the sanest person in the whole movie. Uh, but then she's even breaking up with him when he's not there over lasagna. Like she's like, like she made lasagna and is having this conversation, but that's like such a same thing to do, right? If you're in that kind, not always about breaking up or whatever, like maybe mentally seeing it, even though in the movie she's actually verbally saying it out loud and all that, but that's artistic thing. Um, Also, we didn't even bring up talking about scenes. The Chinese restaurant scene, guys. How great was that? It was like just little quick swipes, edits, and it made me think. It was like no dialogue. It was just action of moving, and there was no soundtrack. And it wasn't really until the very end that they kind of started talking about them, and it felt like an improv game. It felt like a improv game of just hiding. You just gotta hide, because like we had seen the girl that Robin Williams is into before, trying fooling around with the dumplings, and lo and behold, we have a whole scene now in a Chinese restaurant, and we have that we already know, and then they just keep adding with like little swipes. Great. You don't really see that. You don't see that, and stuff like that is what I think. You never know what this movie is gonna hit you with, whether it's someone's brains literally on your face or fun Chinese restaurant swipes. Um, so yeah, I would have way more to talk about. But I did like the fun the end sequence, and I'll just leave you guys with probably the best film title that I've ever heard. Creamer versus Creamer. That's it.
Yay. Yeah,
All
there's so
right.
much we could talk for like ever about. We missed so much. Even the funniest little thing, I'm such a mom, but the guy who performed like the telegram to get her to come down to the VHS store, he
Oh
plays
my god.
on Sesame Street called Mr. Noodle. And and my husband is such a dad. He was like, "Is that Mr. Noodle from Sesame Street?" Oh my freaking gosh. It is. Like, how did he get that role on Sesame Street? They're definitely progressive. I feel like most shows would have been like, sir, we saw you dancing in a tutu in The Fisher King in 1991. We are not gonna bring you around these children. So it was just pretty funny to see him. But my final thoughts, again, I came into the super bias and I'm leaving super bias. I really, really loved it. I loved all the characters. I really love the girlfriend. It was funny, you know, you brought up the Chinese restaurant. Like, I literally watched it and I was like, I need to meet one of these other actors and ask them how iconic was that, because I do feel like it was improv. Like the way she laughs when they start fighting over the broccoli, like I was like, that can't be scripted. Like she must have just been like, these people are genuinely cuckoo. Like even when we cut, like who thinks to do all this? Um, I really like the person that was dating dating Robin Williams. Jason, you didn't finish, but it was kind of cool that while he was in the institution in his coma, she still continues to visit him. So even though we went over the fact that like it was kind of messed up that they introduced her, I feel like at that point she knows his whole situation and she still held it down for him even after he came out of the coma. Like she still wanted to be in his life. Um, she's actually in Hunger Games and she plays this lady that like says weird stuff, and I was like, this must have been the role she submitted for real. She was just like, I know how to act a little cuckoo. This is it. Because I just remember in the Hunger Games, she's like, she realizes that the whole obstacle course is a clock, and she's like, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And I was like, this role is how she got that role, because like this is absolutely wild how she's the same person right now. But recommendation wise, yeah, comedians, um, just to see something else, because I bet you anybody I meet probably around my age, a little older, a little younger, probably has never heard of this movie. So I'll definitely recommend it to people who love movies and specifically love things that are funny, but also talk about some deep stuff. I feel like it's a good time. A lot of people are more in tune with mental health, so it'd probably be like refreshing. Like if you're going through something, to know that like there's a story and people can still be there for you and you can still recover even if you feel like you're down at the bottom, um, with nothing to move up from. So I super enjoyed it. I appreciate you picking it because, you know, I don't really pick things out that were before like 2005 sometimes. So I appreciate you guys keeping me um, in the loop for some of the classics.
Awesome, awesome. So I guess I'll go next. I like this movie a lot, and there's a lot to like about it. And the movie is doing all types of stuff, you know. And for 1991, and, you know, they got the knight on the horse back, and you know, he's got his weird little sewer underground chamber he's living in, and you know, like the set decoration is awesome, and the costume decoration and the art direction, all that's like all that's really interesting, and it all really helps tell this story. The Chinese food restaurant too. Can't forget about that. That's definitely a mention. That was a really interesting, fun scene to watch. Um, I did like this thing. Now that I know about it, I can recommend it. I'm not sure who I would recommend it to, but I feel like if it comes up in conversation about Robin Williams or this lesser known work of his, or what I believe to be a lesser known work of his, Jeff Bridges, mental health, interesting, quirky movies from the '90s kind of thing. Would I watch this again? I don't know yet because I haven't finished it. So I gotta figure out like the final feeling it leaves me with before I realize if I'm gonna watch it. But we'll see. That's it. That's my final thought.
All right, I think that was it, right? Yeah, I can't believe we.
I forgot to say, I probably won't watch it again because I'll probably cry. So yeah. All right.
Okay, so there's a tearjerker at the end. Gotcha.
Throughout, I mean that third act definitely can induce tears for sure. Yeah, I can't believe we even didn't talk about the musical number. But yeah, any Terry Gilliam or Monty Python fans, like it's definitely something out there. Or if you're a fan of Frasier and and Niles, that's someone to recommend. That real quick, he was complaining about the sitcom before he became suicidal, and it was like hate watching. There were so many moments that then kind of now people, especially online and social media, are just hate watching things. And it's like if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. But I feel like that's such a prevalent part of our society right now, also of just like, oh, this is trash. This has gone horrible, and it's like stop watching it. But people constantly, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's whatever, it's like I'm just gonna keep watching it and keep bitching about it of how bad it is, and it's not funny. That was it. That was my last thing. Jason, any questions you might have?
I do. It's funny you should ask. I was wondering, Steve, what do you got for us next week?
Next week, I don't know why you asked me, because uh, Dino just went and Jason just went, and before that, I believe I went. So it's Marina's turn.
Ooh. So, I gotta keep it girly. So the category is Free the Tatas. We're gonna vote on 3 super feminist movies that we're gonna enjoy. So the 3 are. Can you give me pictures? Because I Missing Young Woman.
Ooh.
We also have Suffragette.
Ooh.
And last but not least, She Said.
You got 2
So,
Carey Mulligan movies?
actually, is she not in all 3? Or there's a girl that looks like her. Who's
Maybe she's on 3. I just saw her name in. Yep, she's in all 3. It is Carey Mulligan Day, huh?
Total Accident?
Okay, Marina, which is the most feminist film for me to pick? I don't want to get, what should we? Which is the one that's not going to be like you?
Can you give
Honestly,
us like a little bit of like a blurb of each movie?
so
No, no, no,
honestly,
no, no blur. We've never done that. You got to pick off the video box.
I'm not because I honestly haven't seen 2 of them. But I will say, just from like a preview standpoint, they're all different parts of women issues. But yeah, just vote. Look at those covers. One's obviously more modern. Here we go. And then we also have an older one. And then we have one that is semi-modern, but it's maybe based on true events. So
Oh, yeah. Okay, so have you numbered it 1, 2, and 3?
yeah, Promising 1, Suffragette 2, She Said 3, and hopefully
Okay.
2 of you vote for the same one, so I don't have to vote. All right. Are you counting, Steve, or am I counting?
And 3, 2, 1.
Vote.
I guess we're watching
Okay,
one.
I guess that's a one.
Are you done?
So, what was one again?
One was Promising Young Woman. Of course, you guys picked the only one that I've seen, but I'm excited.
To
You
be
could
All
have
right.
honest
just
with you,
given us
my
two options.
original, I was gonna pick two. So technically, I was gonna cost you to
Have to
to
vote.
Well, why
like.
didn't you?
Well, we picked what we
I
picked, and we're going to watch
Yeah.
what we're going to watch.
That's what it
All
is.
right. Well, that's
There you
it.
go. So, El Don Dino, Jason Echoes, Marina, and me, Steve the Stevie. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.